Okay, this is the edition of Pimp My Filter, but Pimp My Title. As you people know, Title is a pretty nice filter. It's one of the first hang-on backs I've actually bought. Quite a long time actually, because I run mostly canister filters. I'm doing some research online, and even my own observations have kind of come to the conclusion that there's quite a few areas this filter can be improved upon. At its base, it is a pretty decent filter. Comes with pretty high-end pump apparently. I don't know. I mean, it does work pretty good. I have one running right now. Main problems of this thing is, which has been identified by a lot of places, people, everything. And first of all, is some people may or may not want that surface skimmer. The problem with the surface skimmer, and even when you look at this piece here, which is for your down tube, where's that piece? Seem to be missing it. Oh, here it is. Alright, this is for your down tube to go down. Right? Put you down for a sec. Just gonna put these two pieces together. Like that. Right? So the problem is that not only do you have this spot on the filter that's open, not drawing directly from here, but you also have this spot underneath. This piece actually clips to the motor, which I have off right now. Basically just goes like this, and that's how it works. But because you've got this on the main filter and then this down here, also look at the actual tube itself. It's only a half moon, so half of the flow is being restricted through this tube by design. So your little thing that's supposed to like flapper it, right? Because usually this guy's on, and this allows you to either close that right off and use just the down piece here, or open it. So I personally like being able to draw water from the bottom of my tank. And that's one of the biggest downfalls of the whole way this system is designed. Not to say that it's not good, because I mean, you do get filtration mid-level and lower level, but you're not getting maximum lower level filtration, because it's, I mean, right off by design you can see that it's messed up. So the plan is to basically modify this. I'm going to fill these in with silicone. I'm basically going to eliminate surface skimming completely off this Title 55. I have another one that's in my axolotl tank. I'm actually going to be running two tandem 55s, so I'm not really going to modify that one too much. This one's going to get basically a complete reconfiguration. So first step is to silicone all this. We'll get that done. That takes care of the surface skimmer. There is no other easy way to fill that in. I mean, yes, you could pull this whole assembly out. This is what holds the motor in there. Motor just clips like that. It just slides in and out, as you can see. So that's how the pump actually sits in there. But yeah, so that's going to be first. Second, this also, this whole intake assembly, I am going to completely, basically clog that entire intake so that all water is coming from the bottom. And of course, the other thing I have to do is somehow remove that half blockage of the actual intake tubes. Switch it down again for a second. Look, you can see it plain as day. So that's coming out. And this whole section is going to be plugged. Of course, this problem has been talked about over and over online, and I've even seen it myself because I've been running the other one in the axolotl tank not very long, and it's already given me this little feature, which everybody seems to love so much. This little thing on top of the lid, when it starts to overflow, it actually will come up, just like that. You can kind of see it, there you go. So that sits there. So what happens is, as this thing clogs, it starts to bypass your media, which you don't want ever, and it starts coming out, and it basically telling you that you have to clean your filter. So I've already had this problem, and the problem is which this is actually the original one. I've already modified the one that I put back in there. This is the one I took out. The new one got all fixed already. So what I did is I enlarged these holes, and I'll take another couple pictures of what it looks like when it's all done. So the first step is to basically maximize that whole thing, and you can see like this whole back edge here, it could actually be intake, but they're only choosing to draw from this little section. What that does, it actually creates a restriction through the media. So the first thing to do is to basically make that bigger, and I can already see, I just did it today, I can already see a huge difference in flow just by opening that up. So what that means is, like, from here to here now, you're getting perfect flow through it. Like, you're getting very good suction once this is all opened up. Problem is, when you get up to this point, this is a built-in overflow. The water actually, or sorry, I should call it a bypass. It comes up and it can bypass right here. So what that means is, literally, you can't really use from this point up for media. So you're basically missing that whole section that you could utilize for media extra, right? You can't use it, because basically what happens is, as soon as you start bypassing, it's going to bypass that media anyway, so it makes no difference. So the second biggest modification outside of the grate to do to this is to plug this. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use maybe an old credit card or something. I'm going to silicone it, and then I'm going to silicone the slits that are on both sides shut, so that not only is the bottom way bigger and can handle way more of water flow, now it forces it the whole way. Okay, I'm back here just to do a full-out video on the modification that I've done to the Title 55. As you guys know, I pointed out all the issues and kind of design issues that are inherent with the Title 55, and all the Title filters, actually, I should say. But they are a very good filter. They come with a very good pump, and they do have monster media space. So I just want to go over actually what I did to this thing, and just do a highlight of what actually happened. So we'll start first with the extended siphon tube. I am putting this on a 50-gallon fish tank, and this is basically custom length to the bottom of the tank, so this is going to sit pretty much right on the bottom. So that is one of the just low-key mods that I did. Something that'll be different in everybody's tank, but easy enough to do. Second modification was the actual motor cover, pump cover. Basically, this is what the intake tube attaches to. You'll notice that now all of the holes and slits have been blocked, so there is absolutely no way this intake will grab from multiple parts of the cover, which is what it's set up originally And the other thing is that this is actually partially blocked. The intake tube port actually has a factory cast that pretty much half moons it. I think I showed you that on the original post, but basically you'll never get full flow through that intake tube stock. So I removed that piece of plastic that was in there to make it a perfect circle, and got rid of all of the other intake ports that are on this this pump cover, including the actual dial, which will kind of make it look a little nicer, because I know a lot of people will complain about the blue. So of course that's been eliminated. So the other thing that I've done that a lot of people talk about that they like or don't like, in my case I didn't want this particular filter running the surface skimmer at all. The main goal of this modification is to basically force the pump to draw water just from the intake tube, which is how every other filter works except for this one. Not to say that this mid-level and lower level intake system isn't good. I am actually running 2 of these, so I want this one dedicated just for the bottom. So that in my case is working fine, but stock you don't really have a choice, because even though you have a selector here, it doesn't matter. You're always going to be drawing through these ports because you just can't dedicate the intake the way that this is designed. So the only way to dedicate the intake is to actually plug off those holes, and that's what I've done here. Just take it apart here. Here's the lid. Here's the biomedia it comes with. This is actually pretty decent biomedia. I've never run it, but from what I can tell, it looks fairly decent. I am going to try and use it. So that's actually in my other filter. So the other filter modification that I've done, of course, is the media basket. This is the one that gets talked about the most. I'm going to have to put you down again. Okay. Outside of that, that's the only thing, basically, on the skimmer. That's the only other modification that's been done to the actual housing. And again, that purpose is so that water flow is forced to come through the intake tube versus all the other alternate points that the filter is designed with. So back to this, I'm just going to pull out the way I have it set up. The first thing you'll notice is that I have enlarged the intake ports big time, or the intake grates on the bottom. I found with the one that I was running, I've only been running it for a week. I haven't touched it yet. I have modified the basket now, but basically I was already getting within a week, and it is not dirty. It's not a dirty tank, so I mean there was a little bit of crud buildup there, but it wasn't enough to justify this baby starting to come up already. Basically what that means is that water is starting to overflow through the stock ports that are open right here and here, and of course in the front. And why it's doing that is because the intakes are actually quite small. At least on the 55, I would imagine the 75 and 110 is similar, perhaps a little bit bigger, but I wouldn't hesitate to open it right up so that you're getting full, basically area surface to the bottom of those sponges. Speaking of sponges, you'll notice that I've got quite a few of them in here. So this is kind of a hack that comes from the Pong Guru and a couple other people. Basically I'm running the 4 different coarse thicknesses. Maybe some people only run 2, some people only run coarse, but basically this is the filter that comes with it. Nice coarse sponge. Will not do any sort of polishing though. As you can see, you can actually see right through that sponge, so it's good for catching the big stuff, which is why it's on the bottom. Next one is a little bit coarser, or sorry, a little bit finer. Again, you can kind of see through this one, and then we just progressively get finer and finer. So basically I've got 4 levels of sponge in this filter, plus the media. So without this cover mod that you can see here, the piece of plastic that I have silicone across there, basically what happens is you only get usage of the bottom, like full water flow through the bottom of the filter. As soon as it's able to not make it through those bottom sponges, your water will actually start bypassing out of these 2 slits in the front, 2 slits in the back, and 1 big one in the front. And that's when basically you start to see this guy coming up. And that's again, didn't take very long in my situation for that to happen. So basically what I've done is I've covered all of that up, enlarged these ports, which I have since also done to the other filter, and this little problem has gone away. You can also notice that the water level is not coming by the tray. Like when these things are actually running, you can actually see it start to, the water, you'll see the water level start to bypass here as it comes up, instead of coming through the media. And that's because those slits are allowing the water to basically bypass everything, which you don't ideally really want. I see why they did it, but this is the mod to make it stop. So I hope that helps everybody with their titles. It is a very cool filter. I love the auto part, or the excuse me, auto start function of it, and it does have a monster media tray. And especially when you get up to the 110, that media tray is quite a bit bigger. So this will give you maximum efficiency through the filter. And again, if you want to basically use your intake in a basically a standard fashion setup, instead of splitting between 2 separate areas, well, 3 if you count the skimmer, because basically in stock form you're pulling water from your tank from here, here, and here, versus a standard hang-on back that only comes through the intake tube. And the reason why you might want that is because you want your maximum intake pressure to be down here on the bottom of the tank to pick up any waste or anything that's floating around on the bottom of the tank. The bottom part I've found over the years is the best place to have your filtration in most cases. Not to say this doesn't work, this setup, but I do have 2 of these on my tank. So my other tank, or my other filter, I haven't done any plugging of any of the intake ports. So I still have the surface skimmer, I still have the mid draw, and also the partially blocked off intake on that one. I have modified the media trays on that one though. So I've already got 1 filter that's kind of taking care of that spot. So really it's really useless for me in my mind to have them doing the same function. This filter setup will basically be dedicated to the bottom of the tank. Okay, so I hope that helps you guys out. Again, this is this particular filter is the Title 55. It was brand new when I started hacking.